What's up everyone, and I'm back with another video for you guys today. And today we're doing another reaction video by Kate and Michelle when it comes to with the topics of personal growth and when it comes to with those particular topics as well. And just really reacting to a video by her saying why men lack emotional intelligence, or should I say why men lacking emotional intelligence is BS. So it's kind of like when it comes to with that, just really people assuming that most men don't have emotional intelligence. And it's like, huh? What the hell? What's going on there? So me as a man, just really hearing that, especially from other people too, just really, I'm not trying to like downplay anybody or trying to diss them too, but when it comes to certain people say on social media, especially for people who are content creators putting out a propaganda, trying to promote a narrative too, and it's like, huh, like you trying to grow your following, or if you do, you believe this message, like what's going on? That's just my thing too, because with me being a life coach and all that, and especially who specialize in emotional intelligence, I always do my best to really just empathize, to really understand where someone's coming from when it comes to with their emotions, how they, express themselves, how they perceive the world, and all sorts of stuff too when it comes to with that, with my family, friends, people who I dated, etc. too. So without further ado, enough about myself when it comes to with that. If you guys want to watch the original video, it'll be linked in the description below. If you guys, just want to just share your own feelings and opinions and thoughts about this video, especially my reaction to it, you're more than welcome to do that. So without further ado, let's get this party started. Enough of me talking, and here we go.
Men who don't learn emotional intelligence cause endless suffering to their woman.
Why do you think guys lack emotional intelligence?
Because half of them have not been raised by mothers properly.
And I'll tell you this, when you're dating a rich man, they usually have zero or none emotional intelligence.
You're smart, but you have no emotional intelligence. Most men don't.
Recently there's been a lot of articles pointing out how men are far less emotionally intelligent than women and how that's been ruining their relationships.
Guys are intellectually immature, emotionally immature. They don't really understand.
And this is from men saying this too. What the hell?
Emotional intelligence is so attractive to so many women. Most men can't even figure it out.
There's a long-held narrative that men are just not emotionally intelligent. They don't understand, they don't empathize, they don't feel. They're just cold-hearted and self-seeking. But what if that's not true at all? What if the idea that women are just more emotionally intelligent is false? I know that most women won't want to hear what I'm about to say, but the facts, they don't care about your feelings. When we look at the data, there is a very...
Let me pause right there. I heard this phrase so many times, the facts don't care about your feelings, and I get what she's saying there too. I'm not trying to downplay what she's talking about. When it comes to with emotional intelligence, it really goes down to when it comes to how you understand empathy, especially when it comes to with other people's emotions, understanding them, really just being a good listener too when it comes to with that. So first and foremost, for anyone who wants to learn about emotional intelligence, being a good listener, especially towards yourself when it comes to with your own emotions, that's a really good place to start too. And especially when it comes to people that you care about, it could be with your friends, it could be with your family, it could be with your acquaintances, it could be with your lovers, if you're straight, if you're gay, etc., bisexual, you name it, monogamous, polyamorous, in any kind of relationship dynamic, so, or relationship type, I should say too. That's another topic, but when it comes to with that, it's just emotional intelligence. Anybody can understand that, whether you're a man or a woman too. So just really, building that empathy, just really understanding that and really just developing that skill too when it comes to with that, if you choose to do so. So that's just my take on it. I'm not going to try not to talk as much when it comes to with this video. Just going to let it play out, then I'll share my perspective about it too as I'm done too. So nothing against Kate and Michelle. I have nothing against her. And I believe she has that red pill kind of mentality too. I could be totally wrong. I'm not trying to downplay her too, but that's just my thing of it, because I'm not red pilled or blue pilled or purple pilled or placebo pilled. I don't know what the fuck you call it too. I'm just being a genuine kind of man who understands emotional intelligence and really just understands people too. I'm a people person, but I don't express that too as much because I like to protect myself, but that's another story. So let's continue.
Slight difference in a woman's ability to recognize emotions in the form of self-reported surveys, which are not strong forms of data. But when you look at outcomes, well, the story changes. The hard truth is men are not lacking emotional intelligence. It's that women struggle to see it because it doesn't present the same. By the end of this video, you'll understand how false this
I guess so, but let's continue.
narrative actually is, and more importantly, how men and women are simply wired differently, each with their own unique strengths, which are necessary as complementary to one another. And once you understand this, you'll stop overlooking it. Now, without further ado, let's get into it. Now, the first rule of debate. We need to define terms that we agree upon. No shifting meanings to win points. So let's look at what we actually mean when we're using the term emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the ability to understand, recognize, and manage your own emotions and the emotions of other people. In order to score high in this category, you must have strengths in 5 important skills: self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. So it's not just feeling big feelings, it's what you do with them. And in the modern world, we tend to gauge emotional intelligence by the volume or gravity of somebody else's emotional experience. But there are some people who run emotions like a thermostat: quiet, steady, and effective. Now, this piece isn't just an opinion. It has been studied many times. When scientists pulled 215 samples, women had a small, and I mean very small, average edge in reading faces and voices. Small meaning, you can see this when you look at the data, not that men are completely oblivious. Also, the meme that goes around that says women talk 3 times more than men do, that's also false. A famous day in the life study found that both sexes average about 16,000 words per day. The gap that we talk about was based.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I've heard some men, they talk a lot. I could attest to that. And just from experience too, being a man myself, a black man, I should say too, proud of it too, in my ancestry. You know, despite, living in a weird country called America. That's another story. But when it comes to with that, and yeah, I mean, I heard some stories and I have been some situations where men talked a lot. I mean, it's like, bro, I mean, you're passionate, that's good and a lot, but sometimes too, it's like with me, it's like, oh, I get burnt out. So it's like, yeah, that's true. But anyways, let's continue.
Basically a rounding error. Translation in all of this: quiet does not equal clueless, and a low display of emotions likely means the embodiment of high control. Now, when measuring the elements of emotional intelligence, we use the MSCEIT, basically puzzles that check what you can do, not what you say you can do. And it ranks 4 branches of emotional intelligence. Number 1, perceiving emotions. The ability to perceive emotions in oneself and others, as well as in objects, art, stories, music, and other stimuli. Number 2, facilitating thought. The ability to generate, use, and feel emotion as necessary to communicate feelings or employ them in other cognitive processes. Number 3, understanding emotions. This feels common sense, but I will define it. The ability to understand emotional information, to understand how emotions combine and progress through relationship transitions, and to appreciate such emotional meanings. Last, and certainly not least, managing emotions. The ability to be open to feelings and to modulate them in oneself and others so as to promote personal understanding and growth. Now, in simple terms, think of your emotions kind of like the weather. Self-awareness would mean notice the clouds. If a storm is brewing inside of you, it's important to notice this before it takes over. Self-regulation might mean bringing a jacket or an umbrella, aka take the walk, take some space, breathe, and sit with.
And that's like with somatic practices like breath work, and even just like with certain meditation activities and practices can help you to really just manage your emotions. And just like when it comes to how you can really just practice that, just really taking some time for yourself, sitting down if you need to walk, just really taking like at least 5 minutes, 10, 15, 20, just to really, get some air, take a deep breaths for how many counts as you wish, taking a deep breath in, Then when you're ready to releasing that kind of tension from out of your body, just exhaling the breath out as well. So that's a really good thing too that Kate's talking about too. If I'm saying her name correctly, she's a beautiful woman. Just saying that respectfully, of course. And, when it comes to with that, what she's talking about, just really how you can really just manage your emotions, because in life we go through so many stuff. We go through bullshit with people, with circumstances, in our environment, and all the above too. So it's kind of like, even with ourselves too, just really how you can really just manage your emotions in an ethical, genuine, and healthy way. Just really taking a walk, taking some few deep breaths when it comes to with breath work, certain meditation practices, even yogic practices too when it comes to with that. So with the wellness practices, with breath work and yoga, somatic healing and movement, can really just be so helpful, really just really managing your emotions too in a really ethical, genuine, and healthy way towards yourself.
With it before projecting or displacing it. Number 3 would be motivation. Do the hard thing. Not blaming your partner, not making them responsible for you feeling better or you feeling bad, and not punishing them because you feel off. Next, empathy. Check somebody else's sky. Energy, mannerisms, tone, body language. And instead of judging or criticizing them for what they might be experiencing, have compassion for where they are in the midst of their own storm. Now, what's really important, and I am going to distinguish here, is that interdependence in a relationship is important. Your partner's emotional state will impact your emotional state. It's because you care. That is not codependency. And understanding that this is going to happen is also an important piece of emotional intelligence. And last, but certainly not least important, pick plans and strategies that make the group or relationship better. AKA, don't just focus on what you want, what you need, or what you can get, or what mood you need them to be in to feel okay. Don't criticize them, don't blame them, and certainly don't judge them. Again, in a relationship, it is about we, not me. So
that's facts. It's about we, because you guys are a team, a unit, basically. And I'm not just saying that as a military kind of term. I have family who's in the military. Like, I'm not gonna mention it too. Like when it comes to, I'll say my grandparents, my grandpas from both my family sides, and my dad too. But when it comes to with a relationship, it's not all about yourself. It's about the other person too, and each other basically too. It's a we thing, not a me thing. So what you said is really profound right there, because sometimes too, like with how other people in relationships, it could really just be the opposite. It's all, they really just focus on themselves and really neglecting their partner. It's kind of messed up too. And I can only say so much about relationships, even though I have a certification in relationship coaching and all that. I'm still a single guy, and really just in a dating scene too when it comes to it. I'm not even dating anybody, but I've been in relationships before where I done my best to really just be there for my partner, to listen to them, to understand them. But at the same time, I had like some really kind of lessons I need to learn about how I can really just respect myself as a partner too. Just to, really just not being a doormat basically too. And just really not be so codependent on someone just because I want to be validated or be accepted of my peers, So that's just basically it when it comes to with that. And what Kate said is, or Kate and said too, is really spot on. So really good stuff. Yeah, really profound.
Recognize you have the opportunity when somebody that you care about is experiencing emotional distress to be supportive, to communicate with them. And if you are the person who is struggling with your own storm, if you need something from your partner, be direct in asking about it. Transparency in your communication on both sides can help assumptions, stories, and further friction that amplifies because you didn't have the words or didn't choose to communicate through whatever it is that you're experiencing. And now for the uncomfortable truth. Even with those disclaimers in place, there will still be many of you that believe that women are simply just more emotionally intelligent. So again, this is not an opinion piece or a piece of propaganda. When you use tasks and lab measures, many sex differences get very tiny or method dependent. And while we do use surveys to gather data and information, self-reported surveys often inflate these differences. Now, if emotional intelligence is to manage emotions to get good outcomes, then the scoreboard lives in behavior under pressure. Rooms calmed, choices improved, conflicts de-escalated, and trust kept. Now, as I alluded to earlier, I'm not going to say that there are no differences because there are some slight ones. Women, in general, on average, show a small edge in reading cues, meaning women are slightly more likely to notice and correctly identify subtle signals, facial microexpressions, tone changes, body language, like she's smiling but her shoulders say she's stressed, where men tend to quiet themselves more. We can observe in certain lab tasks that men are more likely to turn the volume down on their internal reaction.
Yeah, and that's, that's partially true too, because like with most men, and I can only speak for myself too, like when it comes to just protecting my emotions, my mental state, and all that too, especially with people who want to try to figure me out when it comes to with my emotions and trying to, with those kind of things too. I always trying to be genuine and really just be genuine and transparent with people that I meet, especially with my friends and people who I want to date, and just vice versa too. But there's also too other people where they just want to figure me out, use me for their own gain, and just I've really just learned to really just recognize that, and still am too when it comes to with my relationships with other people, not just with family and all that, but with acquaintances and with lovers, etc. too. So it's kind of like I always tend to be quiet sometimes because it's like, it's not me trying to ignore people. It's just for me to really just protect myself, just really protecting my inner peace and sanity to where people won't take advantage of me too, of my kindness and all that. So that's with my experience coming from with that, because I met people who trying to, use my kindness and not use my kindness, take my kindness and generosity for granted. And it's just, I got to really learn how to really just protect that for my own sanity's sake too. So that's just my own story with that. But anyways, let's continue.
And this is why it feels like they're not showing you any emotion. And oftentimes men don't need to talk it through. This is known as quiet down regulation, which I will explain in a little bit. What I need you to take away from this is the important fine print. These are very small differences and there's lots of overlap. But the context matters. Neither of these are better. Think of this as two useful skills from different ends of a toolkit. One, noticing signals, and two, dialing down the arousal. And both of these can be trained. Meanwhile, empathy gaps look really big on surveys, but they are minuscule when it comes to tasks in neural measures like fMRI imaging. And again, this screams that how we measure this really matters. Now, what's even more interesting, a famous line of University of Oregon studies on empathetic accuracy found that women often score higher when they're motivated. But when you nudge men with incentives, that gap shrinks. In other words, the gap here looks like motivation, not hardwired inability. Now, in relationships, this maps onto a very common pattern. Change follows clear stakes and consistent follow-through, not repeated warnings. So 2 really important takeaways when it comes to somebody's ability to perform emotional intelligence. Number 1, say what you mean what you say, aka keep your word. And number 2, do not repeatedly forgive behaviors that you want to change. That
number 2, that's a big one too, so that's powerful.
Only teaches somebody that this is fine. I will tolerate this. You may continue. More importantly, use boundaries, not threats. And
yeah, boundaries are so important. That's like a lesson for me that I'm continuing to learn as well. Because in the past, I let people take advantage of me once I realized that. And it's just like with me being a really empathetic person, I don't want to just cause no drama, no chaos, no nothing. But at the same time, I'm not a pussy. I'm not say a pussy. I'm not a doormat, basically, too. Just saying that from a really genuine space. It's just like, how can you, balance that? Especially when it comes to just like, you don't want to cause no drama, but you really have to protect yourself, protecting your sanity, your energy, your peace of mind. And what I've learned too, when it comes to just like with that, is just really setting boundaries with certain people too. Not in the ways you really have to be like up in their face and really just cussing them out. It's just like really getting your point across. Like, hey, this is beyond my expertise when it comes to with that. And, or just like say, hey, I don't feel comfortable just doing that kind of, thing for you, or vice versa, whatever that may be. Just really setting the boundary, especially for your own sanity and well-being, whether you're a man or a woman too, can help you to really just, have some more respect for yourself too. Because if you let people take advantage of you or use you in a certain way too, you'll feel drained energetically, emotionally, mentally, and all that, physically, sexually, and all that. And it's not fair for you to really just experience that, because, it's just when it comes to with us, with life, it's really respecting ourselves and really just doing that when we set boundaries is so essential. And even just, once you learn that, to really continuing to really just doing that with yourself first and foremost, but also with people who are kind of have some weird unhealthy intentions with you too when it comes to with that. So just really setting boundaries to what you will tolerate, what you won't tolerate, is essential with life. And just saying that first and foremost. So I'm gonna let her continue to talk. Even though I say that, I keep pausing because she's dropping some good points there too. So sorry if oh my gosh, I paused it at a weird kind of place where she is too. So let me continue.
Approach this by reinforcing
Sorry
it
about that,
with
Kate.
a genuine effort.
Don't get me.
All of this put
Don't
together
get me.
plainly, many of women's assumptions that men are just not listening is simply cross-sex mind reading. You project your best way of processing, talking through each beat of it, onto somebody else's best way to do this. Downregulate, choose an action, then speak. This ultimately is a style clash, not a skill fail.
Yeah, because, when it comes to like if certain people just like asking them, what's going on, but they won't tell you or anything like that. It's just like, we're not mind readers, we can really just be intuitive. We can really just be empathetic, but sometimes we're not mind readers. We're not Charles Xavier. We're not Jean Grey. We're not Psylocke. We're not an X-Men. We're a mutant or anything like that. So it's really good to really just be transparent with your throat chakra when it comes to with your communication, and really just having those difficult conversations to where you can really just solve issues, especially when it comes to anything as well. And just really doing that in a really healthy way for your guys' relationship style too. So that's just me saying that, of course. So, but again, I don't talk much about relationships because I'm a single guy, and who am I to say how people should really just, act or do when it comes to with relationships. I can only speak from my experience and all that. So that's it. And let's continue.
Failure. Now, I want to highlight cross-sex mind reading because it's one of the biggest issues when it comes to relational friction. Simply put, cross-sex mind reading is guessing what the opposite sex is going to do, what they're thinking or feeling, by using your own playbook and getting it wrong. The gist of all this is that assumptions are like, well, you know the phrase. We assume what it would mean if I did that, if I said that. Means the same thing as when they do that or when they say that. But because men and women use different habits for stress, talking, and connection, those guesses often miss. And many women use their own emotional intelligence rulebook to grade men. If you're emotionally intelligent, you'll notice my subtle cues, aka when she's walking around huffing and puffing, doing all these things, assuming.
Do they, with women, I mean, I'm going to say this, do people actually do that now? If it is, and that could be troubling too, because you never know. Like, it's good to like just really having those conversations, to really using our words in a really ethical, genuine, and healthy way to really just resolve some issues, get your point across, and to really just find some peace of mind, that middle ground too, to where we can really just solve some issues if there's problems arises too. So I don't know. I don't know if people actually do that. And me personally, this is just my opinion. That's concerning. Oh man. So I don't know. Let's continue.
You would know something is wrong without being direct. You should name your feelings out loud, and you should be able to give me validation first. And when a man doesn't do these things immediately, the snap judgment becomes he's lacking in emotional intelligence. But ultimately, men are wired to use a totally different strategy. Less signaling, more quiet down regulation. So, between the genders, there's ultimately two flavors. Women use signaling, which is expressive and relational. One of the reasons talk therapy works so well for women and not so well for men. And men use regulation, emotional intelligence. So judging one by the other is simply a mind-reading trap. And I'm sure that many of you have experienced this in real life. And it might sound something like, if he's quiet, he doesn't care. But what's more accurate is that he's trying to keep the system stable so that he doesn't say or do anything that he might regret. Or he's offering solutions.
Yeah, it's like with men too, and for anyone who wants to understand a man's nature, for any women out there who is listening, or just like people in general, it's just like, you know, like men like myself who don't want to just cause chaos and really just like to keep the peace too. It's just like, we don't want to just like argue for the sake of arguing. We can want to just de-escalate the situation and to really just solve issues in a really kind of, you know, ethical, genuine, and healthy way, to really just using our words properly, to really just listening to each other, and to really just letting other people just, you know, get their point across, and, you know, the other person to get their point across, and to really just solve some issues, really taking action with that. But I know in most cases that's not the case, because people are different. You know, most people will cuss them out or yell at them, and that can really just be chaotic too. It's not fair for both people if they're screaming at each other and they're just like, you know, at each other's throats, because that can really just cause more problems in my experience, because I've seen that before with family and with, you know, other people, and with myself too, you know, my younger years too. So, you know, I've learned from my mistakes and just like with my behaviors and all that. And, you know, I've become the person I am right now too, when it comes to with like interacting with other women, and even just like getting to know them too, with the friendship, love, and all that, which is kind of like this, you know, foundation of a relationship too, which I might, you know, talk about that on my relationship channel someday too. So I'm still doing research and educating myself about relationships, and even when it comes to with intimacy and all that as well. So, but anyways, that's another topic on another channel for another day, but let's continue with the video.
So he's totally dismissing me. But more accurate is his way of showing care is aiming to reduce your stress by solving the problem. And lastly, he's stoic. He's stone cold. He shows no facial expression. He just doesn't care. But what's actually happening here is that he's using a neutral face to practice or engage in downregulation, not to withdraw. Now, I've mentioned how men downregulate a few times in this video, so I want to get into what this is and why it's important. I want you to think about emotions like a volume knob, and downregulation is turning the volume down so that you don't flood and conflict doesn't escalate.
That's a good way
Flooding,
to look
simply
at it, yeah.
put, is when your nervous system goes into fight, flight, or freeze, especially or specifically during conflict. Heart rate spikes, muscles tense, thinking narrows, and our smart prefrontal cortex goes partly offline. So in this scenario, you're not just upset, you are physiologically overwhelmed. Now, when somebody experiences flooding, particularly men in this scenario, these are a few signs that will tell you that he's in this state. And if you keep pushing him, this conversation or conflict is not going to move in a positive direction. Number 1, sudden silence or stonewalling. Few words, flat face, staring away, not engaging. Number 2, short, literal answers. I don't know. It's fine. It's not fine. He's overloaded. Number 3, irritability or snapping. This is where they might showcase a sharp tone, defensiveness, or counterattacks. Number 4, exit moves. They want to leave the room, or they do. Or they might pick up a phone to distract themselves, or suggest that they need to get some air or grab some water. Number 5, cognitive jam. Remember how I said your prefrontal cortex goes partially offline? This is where you might notice they have trouble tracking points. They're mishearing what you're saying.
Especially when our prefrontal cortex is just so overwhelmed that we're not listening. It's like going in one ear to out the other. It's just like we don't hear what you have to say, and it's just, yeah, she's spot on about that. I just want to make a little quick comment about that.
meaning what you said and what they heard, if they try to reflect it back to you, does not align, or they start to loop the same lines over and over again. It's the only point that they have sticking in their brain that they can throw back at you. And lastly, the body will tell you. They have a rigid posture, a clenched jaw, shallow or held breath. And when this happens, women tend to make assumptions, which are common and inaccurate. Number one tends to be, he doesn't care. More likely, he's overwhelmed and he cannot access words or empathy until his overall arousal drops. Number two, he's manipulative, he's abusive, he's a narcissist because he goes silent. More likely, it's his self-protective reflex. It's not a strategy or abandonment unless he never returns. Number three, if it really mattered to you, you'd keep talking, right? If you wanted to, he would. That is so toxic. But in reality, if somebody is flooding, more talking leads to worse outcomes. A short pause, a moment to debrief, can be the most caring move that he can make.
Or anybody can do too. Just really take some time to really, for yourself, to really just take a breath, to really just regulate your nervous system. If you're feeling like overstimulated with emotions, if you're pissed off, especially with anger, or if you're just frustrated, or if you're just tired, if you're just like really taking a breath, going outside, if you need to just like, do some deep breathing to help you to, anybody can really just to regulate their nervous system, especially with their prefrontal cortex and all that. That can really just be helpful. So just really taking some moments for yourself to breathe, to really relaxing your body, relaxing your nervous system, your muscles, and, really especially, supporting your own energy as well can really just be helpful. So yeah, she's right about that too. And it sounds like I'm glazing her up too, but, what she's sharing so far in this video is really pretty accurate stuff right here. I'm not gonna lie, because she knows what she's talking about. So yeah, let's continue.
Lastly, he remembers what I said. He's just ignoring it. When in reality, flooding impairs listening and memory, especially in the moment. So key points may be missed, not maliced. So you might be wondering, and if you're a man, this is not an attack on you at all. But why men? Again, this is on average, not only. But simply put, biology and socialization. In conflict, many men show much higher psychological reactivity and are much more prone to shut down behaviors.
Yeah, that's true in a sense too, because when it comes to with that, especially with interaction with other women, we don't want to, especially most men, I'm not trying to speak for all men here too. I can only speak for myself, but with my experience with dating other people, and I say dating other people, dating other women too, whether I'm in an argument or disagreement, I just, I don't shut down, but I just really don't want to escalate the situation even more. So it's kind of like, okay, it's just, taking note what they're doing, but at the same time, it's just like, just really paying attention to those behavior cues from what, she's expressing to me, and if she's projecting her anger or frustration, or even just like hatred or disdain or something too. It's just really taking really kind of like a note of that too. That's what I do too, but I know other people could really just be so different. So I don't know, when it comes to with that, it's just, relationships, especially between men and women, they can really just get complicated real quick too. So it's really good to just, set boundaries, and really when it comes to with that, just really recognizing certain things too, when how people talk to you, how they express towards you, when it comes to how they treat you, how they talk about you, towards you, etc. too. So, and with how men, we can really just respond to that, not just by shutting down, even though it's like a natural thing most men do, but also just really paying attention to that, not without having to say anything too, just really taking note of that and just really taking some notes there too. Because that can really just be a helpful skill for men to really just noticing things. If your girlfriend, if your wife is screaming at you, saying certain things, trying to get a rise out of you, to really just, to push your buttons too, to really just get a response. So just really take a note of that. And especially to what she's doing too. If you're not doing that to her as well, then that's another thing too. So again, really, connections, and especially with relationships with men and women, can be complicated, but they can also be beautiful too once they're healthy. So, anyways, I'm getting hungry a little bit. Let's continue.
The classic stonewall, if you will, which tends to be
I'm gonna let this
interpreted
video
as
play
your
out. I'm not gonna say
indifference,
much.
but is typically overload protection, not the incapacity or total lack of love. And this is why downregulation, showcased by men, is such an important factor when it comes to EI, emotional intelligence. Instead of becoming overly reactive or allowing themselves to get into a position where they are flooded, you might notice that they take a deep breath and they're practicing slowing down their breathing. They might take a short pause, use simple words, focusing on facts, and reframing the conflict, not as the end, but this is difficult, but we can make it through this. And in their behavior, they may have to say, hey, I need a couple minutes, and step back from the conflict. And they likely will speak quiet and calmly, and they will not make decisions until they are calm. Again, that shows emotional intelligence. And these are important, especially in a relational dynamic, because it prevents blow-ups, it prevents escalation, and it prevents people from saying and doing things that they will regret, or hurting you because you're trying to force them to stay in it with you. Number two, it keeps their thinking online, right? When we're flooded, remember, our prefrontal cortex kind of checks out. But if we can stay regulated and proactive so that we don't get into that space, we can think clearly, which is really, really important when it comes to relationships and conflict. It also allows them to create safety. Instead of just getting up and storming off because they can't tolerate the overload, they can communicate to you, hey, I'm going to need a minute. I love you. We'll get back to this. And most importantly, it models containment. It shows you that you can have strong feelings, that they can hold strong feelings, and that they don't have to make you or other people or your feelings the problem. Now, an important distinction for men. Healthy downregulation does not mean suppression. It is temporary, intentional, and followed by re-entry. You don't just abandon it and never speak of it again. Whereas stonewalling or suppression is you shutting down and staying out. And
yeah, stonewalling. I think I've done that before, and I realized that wasn't helpful too. Just really, again, and I paused it again. So I said I wasn't going to pause, but other than that, just, changing the subject a little bit here too. And it's just really taking some time for yourself to really just calming down your nervous system, to really take a few deep breaths, to gather your thoughts, managing your emotions. Especially doing that in a really somatic way too can really just be helpful, especially for men too. Especially for men who can have a strong temper too. Even with me in the past, I'll say this too. I had a temper. It wasn't destructive or anything like that, but I know from my parents told me I had a temper. Once I'm pushed, it's like I'm the Hulk. Just get out the way. So, over the years, 20 years or 30 years later too, I managed that. There's some stuff that gets me mad, but I can really manage to really just, balance that, to really just manage my emotions when it comes to with just practicing emotional intelligence within myself to deal with difficult situations too. So when it comes to with that, that's what Kate said too in a few minutes there. It's really spot on. And stonewalling, yeah. It's good to really just, avoid doing that at all times. But who am I to judge too when it comes to with that? Because people are different and we go through certain things. And it's good to not be so hard on ourselves too if you make mistakes. If we're willing to really just to improve and to really just be a better person, then that's good enough too. So anyways, let's continue.
Often it comes under the guise that your partner is the problem, aka avoiding accountability, which I know you hate when women do it. So I'm going to ask men to always be aware that there's accountability, especially in conflict, especially in relationships, that needs to be taken on both sides. And this tends to mostly show up in very avoidant men, not all men at all. Now, with all of these examples and all of this conversation, there's something I really need you guys to understand. Now, what I need you to notice here is something that kills relationships way faster than whether or not your partner is sophisticated and college educated in emotional intelligence. But it's assuming the worst of your partner over the best. With this understanding in mind,
that's true. Yeah, that's true.
Between the differences of the sexes, it's not about who's better or worse when it comes to emotional intelligence. It's about understanding that you are wired differently. And the goal in a relationship is how can I support you and how can you support me?
Yeah, we're definitely built differently. So definitely, 100%.
Understanding our differences so that we can connect and understand each other and approach conflict in a much more productive way. And here is exactly how you do that. If you're the down regulator, often men, you're going to have to learn to use your words if you care about your partner. And more importantly, you need to care about how they feel and how your behavior makes them feel. Now, this doesn't have to be complicated. It can be incredibly simple, and it will prevent a conflict from escalating under the assumption that you're abandoning them or completely indifferent to their feelings. Number one, label what you're doing. I'm going to take 10 and settle down so that I can listen and we can communicate through this. I'll be back at, and then set a time. AKA, be direct with what you're doing and why you're doing it. No person in a relationship likes to feel physically or emotionally abandoned. And if you care about your girlfriend or wife, communicating this keeps safety in the mix, which is very important for the stability of your relationship long term. Now, as you get more comfortable practicing communication and conflict in your relationship, work on adding a bridge sentence. I'm taking 10. I need to pause and calm down. I really care about this, and I care about you. And more importantly, I want to get this right, especially if you're somebody who's working on these skills and you have a history of lashing out, attacking them, criticizing them, or saying things you just don't mean. Adding in a bridge sentence shows a lot of care, shows security, safety, and that
That's
they
a
can
really
trust
good skill to remember there too. So yeah, I'll definitely take note of that.
that your distance isn't coming from a place of negative emotion, disdain, contempt, or resent. And once you get more comfortable expanding your window of tolerance, these skills will become much more easily accessible to you in the moment of conflict. And next, return on time. If you set a time to communicate or finish this conversation, don't be late. Make excuses, don't put it off. And
Right.
if you can recall some of that conversation and what they were aiming to communicate with you, try to start this with a line of validation. So that
Yeah, just be punctual too. Keep your word. So yeah, definitely spot on stuff there too.
you walk into this saying, I hear you, I heard you, and it immediately diffuses any defensiveness that you might experience. And the hardest thing for most couples, especially in conflict, is we don't like to hear what somebody else is trying to tell us, especially if it's about ourselves. And sometimes we get into this place where we don't like how they're saying what they're saying. But a question that I would encourage both parties to ask themselves is, are you willing to hear the truth in what it is they're saying? And if you can circle back with an expression of what you understood from them and where they're coming from with this whole thing, that will automatically disarm them so you can come together and solve this problem together. Because it's not your problems or my problems. This is a problem and we are going to solve it together. Now, women, because you tend to be the signal first partner, use the ask. Because women tend to read cues faster, you can be an incredible support to your man. Maybe he's not aware that he's starting to get elevated. You certainly notice it. And so you can look out for not only yourself, but for him and your relationship. One very easy thing that you can do if you start to notice the temperature increase in the room a bit is pause and ask them if they need to take a moment. Or do you want to continue this conversation? A lot of times men feel stuck in a conflict. So if you give them the opportunity to take space before they get too escalated or before you get reactive, it can save a boatload of hurt. And the second reason that asking, especially prior to having a difficult conversation, is really important is because of one thing, again, under cross-sex mind reading, you would never assume to be true, but for men very much is. And that is that they have a singular focus. And because women don't think or operate psychologically this way, they don't consider this. And when they try to approach a conversation right now, they feel dismissed. So when it comes to communication, especially around important conversations, ask them, when is a good time for us to talk? Or when can I have your full attention? And this guarantees that he will be mentally open so that he can be fully present with you instead of trying to have this conversation with him when he's in the middle of a work day. Likely not the best time. And once you do ask this and he gives you an answer, leave it there. Don't nag, leave it and approach that conversation at the time he is committed to communicating with you. Next, when it comes to men, when you communicate with them, it's important for you to state your need first. It's really important that women start to understand that men need direct and clear communication. The subtle hints that we try to give because we would pick up on them typically don't land. And because they don't land for him, you get frustrated and assume carelessness or neglect, when that's certainly not the case. And again, this also requires you to assume the best. He wants to meet my needs. Instead of the worst, he just doesn't care. Now, when you're being direct about your needs, it's also important to articulate why this is important to you. An example of this in conversation or communication might be something like this. Please reflect back what you are hearing from me. It's important to me to feel understood and that I understand you, so that we don't get caught up arguing about things because we're misunderstanding one another. Then we can problem solve from the exact same level. So you have a need and you communicate why it's important. Lastly, for women, do not punish their pause. Treat their brief silence as care, not rejection, especially when labeled. Most of the time, men need time to process and think. They are not taught, brought up, or culturally encouraged to explore and express and experience their emotions. So they're not going to be as fluent when it comes to discussing their feelings with you. Okay, they're not going to be as open or attuned to communicating or using the right words when it comes to their inner experience. Give them the time to process. Don't.
Yeah, I mean, I can only speak as a man too when it comes to with that, but if like someone allows us to really just express ourselves when it comes to with our emotions and how we're feeling in the moment, when it comes to just really venting and really just getting that out of our system, that can really just be helpful, and it can really just strengthen the connection and a relationship with someone too, especially with the opposite sex. And especially with like if we have like a girlfriend or if we have a wife too, you know, when it comes to with that, just really for them to let us just vent, to really just gather our thoughts, you know, regulate our nervous system, and to really just, you know, get our point across to the best way that we can. So yeah, you know, what she said is spot on, you know, 100%. Not saying I'm kissing her ass or anything. I'm just saying what she's saying too is really spot on. And so, yeah, definitely.
Poke, prod, push, or put pressure on them. It will not end well for you. And so long as their behavior in their moment of pause is not stonewalling, which we covered earlier, see it as a form of protection or preservation over you and your relationship, instead of assuming that it is abandonment. How he goes about taking his pause is much more important than if he takes a pause. So a quick cheat code for anybody who wants to actually aim to apply some of these things. Number 1, 2 words to prevent assumptions and misreads, such as, hey, cooling down, cooling down. Number 2, make a promise. Be back in 10. Number 3, 1 opener upon return. Here's what I hear you saying. And number 4, 1 closer. What would help you feel understood right now? Or my personal favorite, what is it you need me to understand right now? Now, here's the difference between low emotional intelligence and different emotional intelligence. People with low levels of emotional intelligence cannot read impact, cannot label the basics, and will not adjust after receiving feedback. Okay, that is low emotional intelligence. Different means he's going to read the room in his own way. He will regulate first and contribute conversationally when he's ready to do so. So, because conflict is one thing that can make or break relationships, here are a few very important things to understand from a personal responsibility lens. Number 1, ask. Don't assume. When you get quiet, what does that mean for you? Number 2, translate your needs up front. Don't wait for them to guess. Do you want comfort? Do you want them to hear you out? Or do you want solutions? Come into the conversation knowing what you need. Hey, I just need to get this off my chest. Or hey, I really need you to help me. Or hey, I really need you to help me solve this problem. If you can give men direct and clear feedback, they will respond appropriately. Number 3, label your behavior. Whether you're the man or the woman, if you need time to chill, you need space, you need to work through what you're going through, talk about it. Hey, I'm going to take 10. Hey, I need to get outside. Hey, I need 30 minutes. I'm still here. Do not compromise the safety of your relationship unless you want the safety to be compromised. Number 4, to make sure that you're hearing what they're saying, make sure you reflect back to them. So you're not mad at me. You're just stressed about work, right? I want to make sure that I'm not missing something. And number 5, a simple cheat code in a relationship is just pick words that you both can understand to simplify what's going on in the experience. All of this to say, men do have emotional intelligence. It just shows up as calm control before verbal connection, which is opposite of women. And when we stop grading each other by our own playbook, these differences in strengths when it comes to emotional intelligence become complementary, not controversial. Now, if this is something that's important to you, here's the work that needs to be done. Conflict, emotions, and communication. These are all skills that many of us just weren't taught. We aren't taught that the sexes are different. We aren't taught how to navigate the differences in each sex, how to understand them, how to support them. And as you aim to, hopefully, practice these with a better understanding, I want to highlight something that I mentioned earlier, your window of tolerance. Simply put, your window of tolerance is the range of stress or activation where your nervous system can stay present, flexible, and connected. You can feel your feelings while also thinking clearly, and you can choose your response. When you are inside the window of tolerance, your breath is stable and steady, your heartbeat is regular, you can listen, reflect, and speak without shutting down or becoming highly reactive, and your emotions feel tolerable and workable. Now, when you're outside of the window of tolerance, you'll experience hyperarousal or hypoarousal. Hyperarousal is your fight or flight. This is where you're going to feel anxious, angry, flooded, racing thoughts, loud and fast speech. Hypoarousal is the freeze or shutdown state. This is where you start to feel numb, blank, spaced out, low energy, and minimal speech. And this is really important for you to have awareness over yourself, again, but in a relationship, if you can also notice this in your partner, it's very, very, very important. Because when somebody exits the window of tolerance, their skills drop. Poor memory, rigid thinking, mishearing you. So what looks like not caring or stonewalling is often physiological overload, not intention. And there are things you can do in the moment if you start to notice yourself entering the outer arena of your window of tolerance. If it's spiking, aka hyperarousal, slow breathing, lowering your voice, take a 20 to 30 minute pause. And again, try to drink some water, maybe go for a short walk, work through those emotions, but make sure you set a resume time. Now, if you're dropping into hypoarousal, gentle movement is very, very helpful here. Orienting yourself into your moment in the present, using your five senses, something you see, something you smell, something you taste, something you can hear. And if your partner is there, brief eye contact can also really help bring you back into the moment, especially if you're somebody who's prone to something known as dissociation. But the reason I bring this up is that you can, and the goal should be to, for most people, expand that window of tolerance over time. And you can do this. This is not a fixed thing. Obviously, some natural lifestyle things will help. Sleep, regular exercise, breath work, mindfulness, blood sugar stability is very important. And if you're somebody who's into therapy or interested in that, therapy, especially trauma-informed therapy, can be very, very useful. And in practice, you can do this with your partner using short, boundaried exposures to some hard conversations with clean exits and intentional repairs. Again, I want to emphasize, you can grow this slowly and steadily with intention, but pushing somebody outside of this does much more harm than good. So all in all, here's the bottom line. The men lack emotional intelligence trope completely collapses when you look at methods, motivation, and physiology. Women tend to signal first. Men tend to regulate first. Both are forms of emotional intelligence, and both are trainable. Ultimately, in a relationship, the sweet spot is calm and connected. Steady yourself first, then say it out loud. If men and women can stop judging and criticizing or expecting the other person to match their style, what you will see is that these differences are actually highly compatible. And what you can do if you're working on this, and maybe your partner isn't, or vice versa, do not focus on trying to fix them or change them. Instead, control your controllables. Use clear boundaries, be honest with your word, mean what you say, and really prioritize timed re-entries, because safety and security in a relationship for both parties is important. And if you can do this, you'll argue way less about tone and stamina and actually be able to come together and solve the thing in front of you. Remember, different isn't deficient, but complementary. And that is how relationships get stronger. Now, if you liked this video, then I think you'll like this one too. And if not, then respectfully, fuck off.
Yo, damn, I didn't see that coming. So yeah, good video from Kate and Michelle, so shout out to her. I mean, she really dropped some gems when it comes to this video. If you guys ever want to watch the original video too, you're more than welcome to do that. If you guys don't want to, that is your choice. I'm not gonna judge you or say fuck off. Like that she said in the end of the video. It's like, damn, girl, it's like you got some spice. I mean, shit, I'm a softie compared to most people nowadays too. Shit, so all I say is just like, you don't want to watch it, they can just close the YouTube app or just really unsubscribe from my channel and all that too. It's like their choice. But if they keep harassing me, then it's like they're gonna get hidden from the channel. first and foremost that. Hide future from the YouTube, a blessing. I'll say that too. But anyways, if you guys like this video too, this reaction video, feel free to share your own feelings and opinions and thoughts about it. And if you guys ever want to watch the original video, it's linked in the description below, and I will see you guys around in these social media streets. So I'll see you guys around. You guys take care of yourselves, take care of each other too, your environment, and many blessings.